Okay, this video is on captions and writing captions. And captions, of course, could also be called cut lines. And captions are really important. Images get looked at way more in news stories and online and in papers and everything. And on top of it, in eye tracking studies, Poynter Institute showed that cut lines consistently get higher readership than the actual story text itself, right? So there's a lot of people who are getting their information. They probably read a headline, they read the captions, but they may not necessarily read through all that written text. That's just human nature at work, right? Shorter, easier to digest type things. So it's really important to write really good captions and cut lines, right? So let's take a look at this. And unfortunately, this is the point of the class where if we were there, I'd be like, all right, what's wrong with this caption? A little girl enjoyed a carnival ride. And of course, the answer should be everything, right? We don't know the name of the little girl or any other information. We can already see that. I mean, obviously, it's a little girl on a carnival ride. We're missing all kinds of context and why the hell am I looking at it and just everything. So this is just absolutely terrible, and I never want to see a caption from any of you that looks anything like this. So for this class, we are going to use AP style captions. Now, obviously not everything is written in AP style captions. Every place uses them. But one of the tenets of our department is that we should teach people how to adhere to guidelines. And there's other ones besides the AP. There's plenty of other guidelines. Even, right, each individual place can have their own guidelines. But we are going to just stay focused on AP style captions. And so it's very formulaic. It's very easy. And there's nothing else I can say. It's just so easy that if you don't adhere to it, it would blow my mind. And it's a two-sentence formula. And our first sentence is where we're really kind of giving those 4 W's, who, what, where, when, the first 4 W's. And so one of the most important things is that you're always writing it in present tense. Okay, so as far as the person's concerned, what's happening in the photo is happening live in front of them. Even if it's done in the past, obviously, we would still write it in the present tense. We have to say who is in the photo and what they are doing. So that is kind of the obvious thing, but we should obviously add in a little more context. We're going to put the where in the form of a city and state where the photo was taken. And we're going to provide the date that the photo was taken. And this is going to be very specific in including the day of the week. So we can see blah, 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 all the information up here. Monday, comma, March 25th, comma, 2019. Now you can once in a while switch this around and say on Monday, March 25th, 2019, then you'd have to put a comma here, and then you could go writing on. But we're not going to even do that. We're just going to stick with our very, very formulaic thing. So let's look at a couple of examples of this, and we're just focusing on the first sentence for now. So German Chancellor Angela Merkel addresses the media during a joint news conference with Turkish Prime Minister Ahmet Davutoglu after a meeting at the Chancellery in Berlin Monday, January 12th, 2015, right? So what is German Chancellor Angela Merkel doing? Addresses, right? So it's present tense, the media during a thing, identifying a second person. I want you to notice they have their titles, right? German Chancellor, Turkish Prime Minister, and where it is at the Chancellery in Berlin, and the date. St. Cloud State University President, so again, here's a big title here. Robin Wacker, so that's the who, addresses faculty, so these are both addresses, I probably should have used 2 different ones. Faculty and staff in Ritchie Auditorium located in Stewart Hall during the fall 2018 convocation in St. Cloud, Minnesota, Tuesday, August 12th, 2018. I don't know where I even got these. But again, you're seeing kind of this common pattern. Really just this is what's happening, who the people are. When we have multiple people, right, we're doing them both. In this case, we don't have to identify them because they're public celebrities, and generally we'd probably know who these are. I mean, I couldn't pick them out, but I'm sure other people would, especially the fact that I think one's a man and one's a woman, right? A woman and a man. That should also help cue it in, maybe. So the point, though, is a bad caption only tells what we can already see. So think about that little girl. Now, we started adding context in that first formula, but I think the best part is the second sentence, right? And that second sentence is providing us all the context to what's going on in the photo and why we're looking at the photo, right? So this is that fifth W, that's the why. And really the most important thing is it should tell us something we can't already see. It should be giving us more information in this second sentence. So here we see, right, Democratic presidential hopeful U.S. Senator Barack Obama delivers his policy on Iraq speech Wednesday, September 2017 in Clinton, Iowa. So this is obviously from way back when, and that was our first sentence. But now our second sentence is, well, what is he delivering? What news, what talk is he delivering? Obama called for the immediate withdrawal of all U.S. combat brigades from Iraq, with the pullout being completed by the end of next year, right? So this has to do, we can't hear what he's saying in the photo, obviously, and we can see that he's saying it, so we're seeing he's delivering his policy on Iraq in a speech. And so then that second one's giving us that more information, like this is what happened. This is kind of the payoff of what happened during this photo. I'm also going to point out that, see this one, this title has been abbreviated, and the AP Style Guide has a lot of these things where it tells you exactly how you are to abbreviate various titles. And so that's another thing. I mean, obviously, for our class, I doubt you'll be photographing any politicians, so I don't know that you'll need those, but that's something you should be aware of, that, you know, the style guide has these various things. So here's just another title: Dusky dolphins in Golfo Nueve Peninsula, Valdez, Argentina. These dolphins use communication to herd anchovies into balls, then tear through feeding on the fish. Now this, notice it's not in AP style. This comes right from National Geographic. And National Geographic uses their own style guide, not an AP style guide. But I think the second sentence really tells us something nice, right? Like it's telling us this extra information of, you know, kind of unpacking the photo for us with some more information. I mean, I can obviously see that they're doing something, or maybe they just happen to be here. You know, it's hard to tell in the photo. Maybe these animals just all happen to be hanging out there, which I don't know why these were there. But, right, it's giving us some context. So I like this quote I found, and I believe this is from National Geographic. Every caption should intrigue in a way that makes them look back at the picture because they just learned something they didn't know before they read the caption, right? So they see the photo. You can make a lot of assumptions, right? And it says a photo's worth you know, that old phrase, a photo's worth 1,000 words. But, you know, honestly, a photo and words together are worth way more, because you can only tell so much from the photo. It's less than a second frozen in time, right? We could try to make guesses and assumptions, but we need to clear up those assumptions and maybe give us something like, oh, okay, like that. You know, that's what we should do with captions. So obviously I'm not going to play this during the video, but this part of the talk, I would flip on this photo caption advice from Nat Geo. I'll include this in the videos to watch for today's class. So I just have some caption writing tips. Obviously I already did this one. Use the present tense to describe the action in the photo. Photos in the past, but it's happening now for your reader. I also covered this. Use titles of public figures, so mayor, Indiana mayor, or whatever, South Bend mayor. You know, use these titles of peoples for public figures. Now, we're likely not going to be doing a lot of public figures and celebrities in our photos. We'll be doing regular people. And so people of the public, you should, right, when you get a photo of someone, you should talk to them, obviously, and follow up and find out more about them. We, as photojournalists, you're not going to just be random. It's not street photography. You need to know who the people are. So you're going to want to ask them, hey, I just took this photo of you. Can I blah, blah, blah? You know, kind of get a little consent in some ways in that way. Even though technically when we go over rights and laws, if they're out in a public space, they're fair game for photography. But it's just a nice thing to do. Plus, you want to be able to provide this information in your cut line. So you'd want to ask the person, you know, their hometown and add it to your thing. Also, if the person's a child, you should get their age, and you should obviously talk to the parents as well, so they don't go home and say, hey, some man was photographing me, you know, or some woman was photographing me. Now, there is some question on whether when you're asking for someone's hometown, do you want like where they're from or do you want where they reside? And really, that would be dependent on what organization, your style guides for your organization. Think about it. We have a lot of students at the University of Iowa. A lot of them reside in Iowa City, but they're not from Iowa City, right? So you have to make a determination, kind of, your organization will have a determination for you. For us, I'm going to say just go ahead and use hometowns. Like, where are they from? Where's their permanent address? Here we see just an example of this in action. So Katrina Jackson of Moline holds her dog close after animal ... Notice the photo was taken in Moline. But that's okay, right? Because you need to characterize where this person's from. So here's the name of the person, comma, of Moline, comma. So look at the grammar there. That's a good way to do it. Here we see one with age and child. So Shia Sable, 9 of Davenport. So there we have age and place, comma, rings in 2019, right? So this is the pattern that we're going to want to write them in for this class. So if it's an adult, of Moline; if it's child, age of wherever, right? So this is how we will do it in this class. Another thing is that the second sentence shouldn't come out of left field. I've had people write some weird second sentences. But it should be in direct relation to what's in the photo, not just the overall topic of the news story. There should be a connection made between the photo. Again, it's just like good writing, right? You don't let things come out of nowhere. You need to there's a time and a place for everything. If you have multiple people in the photo, you would label them left to right. Generally, you'll actually, on the first person in for parentheses, say left, and then keep going, and you don't have to put anything else, because then you kind of set up the context for the person that they're going to be moving left to right. Because think about that. We're in a Western culture. We read left to right. Our tendency would be to look at a photo from left to right. I mean, obviously, we can override that as photographers through good composition. But as far as we're concerned for writing the captions, we're going to identify people left to right. But there's going to be cases where there's an obvious person who's the center of attention. And so for that, it would probably be good then to give them an identifier. So if this person is like holding a puppy, you'd see John Doe of Kalamazoo, Michigan, seen holding the puppy, right? So, I didn't talk about in the places, like, do you add a state or a country or something? And I would say that, this is, again, going to be organizational dependent. So if I'm photographing in Iowa, I would say, of Moline, and the thing is probably that, it's in Iowa. If I'm photographing for a more national context, I would put the state in, and obviously for an international context, or really for anyone from someplace international, anywhere in America, I'd probably put the country too, because most people don't know the names of cities in international places. Never in your caption say above or pictured here or anything like that, because the caption sits right under the photo. So it's automatically, and it's also stylized different than the regular text. I mean, there's the Gestalt principle of proximity that we've talked about, right? That caption is attached to that picture. There's no reason to say above in any way, shape, or form. Just go right into your cut line. The only time that you would actually use anything like that is if you had, like, say, a grid layout of like 4 or 5 pictures, and you had to kind of get some wayfinding as to what, and you have like multiple captions together. So that's why that would happen. But for us, we don't have to do anything here. So don't even bother putting above or whatever. And another thing that with your captions is don't make them sound like a child's storybook. I've seen a lot of students writing captions that are like, look out, guess he's in for a shock, or something like that. Like, it's just too cheesy. It is not how you write captions. It's not the right tone or anything, right? This is news. This is very, you got to think of this as a little cut and dry, right? This is news writing. And so you shouldn't be doing any of these crazy things. If you find yourself writing an exclamation mark in a caption, stop, stop and reread it and realize that you're probably doing something like this. So don't give directives to the audience in it. Don't talk to the audience. It's just the facts, right? That's what you're going to put forward. And also, you should attribute actions that aren't shown. So, if they obviously can't see the people dying, they may not even see any dead bodies in the photo. So you should say, according to police, right? So, how do you know that a bunch of people died? You didn't witness the accident, right? You're not the primary source in this case as a photographer. So you would attribute that according to police or something like that. So that is everything you need to know for caption writing for our course. Again, defer to the AP style guide if you wanted to use abbreviations and things like that. But for the most part, we're going to do that first and second sentence formula to cover our 5 W's.